expansion?
Help me in my career currently. She did?
I thought you were saying
No, she did my sec visit at 2 o'clock. And then she's teaching class.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
That's what she said,
Yeah.
don't worry about class.
Hi everyone. Yeah, we are going to be starting straight away. This is the 17th already. You're welcome to this session. The topic is elevating self-care, empowering practices for international graduate students. We really want to thank everyone here today for coming to this session, as we want to see you in different capacity as supporting international graduate students, either as supervisor, either as faculty, and we really want to appreciate you for doing a wonderful job, because we are international graduate students. That is what binds us together here today. Yeah, I am going to be co-presenting these very particular piece with my colleagues here, and I am Sharifa now, and I'm second-year graduate student at the University of Vermont ESA program. I hold my graduate assistantship with the Department of Residential Life at the University of Vermont as Assistant Resident Director. You're welcome, Riley. Yeah, and I'm an international graduate student from Nigeria. I'll pass on to Halo.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Abel Akinsanya. I'm also an international student from Nigeria in the ESA program, second year in the ESA program, and I work with residential life as the assistant residential director. Nice to meet all of you. Sir?
Hi everyone, my name is Takudzwa Kennedy Bourgeois. I'm a second year graduate student at the University of Vermont, and my graduate assistantship is at the Interfaith Center under the DEI division. Thank you all for coming out.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, before we dive in, we are going to be taking us through the land acknowledgement statement. The campus of the University of Vermont sits within a place of gathering and exchange shaped by water and stewarded by ongoing generations of indigenous peoples, notably the Western Abenaki. Acknowledging the relations between water, land, and people is in harmony with the university's mission. Acknowledging the serious and significant impacts of our histories on indigenous peoples and their serious and their homeland is part of the university's ongoing teaching, research, and engagement. And an essential reminder of our past and our interconnected futures for the many of us gathered on this land. UVM respects the indigenous knowledge interwoven in this place and commits to uplifting the indigenous peoples and cultures present on this land and within our community. So having done that, I'm going to be running us through the outline of this presentation. We are going to be talking about having an understanding and conceptualization of self-care. We are going to be talking about the challenges that are faced by international graduate students. And part of what we're going to be doing is that we are going to be revealing, it's going to be a phenomenological presentation talking to our experience as international students at the University of Vermont. We are going to be talking about how to develop a personalized self-care plan, how to build resilience and stress management. We are going to be talking about how to foster a self-care culture in workplace or academic setting. And we are going to be having an interactive self-assessment, then we proceed to question and answer and eventually conclude. Yeah, so here is our learning outcomes. By the end of this presentation, we expect participants here today to be able to identify some major challenges confronting international graduate students while they pursue, the academic experience. Identify at least 3 self-care practices that could be helpful to addressing the challenges of international graduate students. We expect participants to be able to create a personalized self-care plan, or even help international students to be able to develop one to facilitate a work-life balance. We expect participants to be able to build resilience and manage stress, or help international students to be able to navigate their way towards incorporating that resilience plan to be able to succeed, whether with their study or their professional life. At the end of the day, we expect participants to understand the significance of prioritizing self-care.
So, understanding self-care, I'm going to able to start the presentation.
All right, thank you so much for starting us off, Sherry. I want to believe or assume that self-care is not new to everyone here, but just to like reiterate it and remind us of the need to actually practice it and do it. So, self-care refers to the activities and practices that individuals engage in to maintain their physical, mental, emotional states, like how you ensure your overall well-being is catered for. And we see it as a step towards you proactively taking care of yourself. You know, as student affairs professionals, many things we face revolve around attending to students, meeting their needs, listening to tough situations. So the need to take care of ourselves cannot be overemphasized. So self-care is not self-indulgence or selfishness. It's not about avoiding responsibility or engaging in escapist behavior. It's not just the time you just take away and do nothing and just be there. It's an intentional action where you do some activities to help you recalibrate yourself into your work and be able to serve your community better. It's also not a one-time fix. You know, some people feel like self-care is just something you just jump into and everything goes good instantly. No, it's something that you have to be proactive about, intentional about, to avoid burnout and fatigue. Also, there are misconceptions about self-care. People see it as egoistical and indulgent, but in reality, it's an essential practice for sustaining mental health and well-being. We should not be student affairs professionals that are just go, no time to take out time to take care of ourselves. So it's important that we take out time. It's not also being selfish, as I said. It is a time to take care of yourself, and it's not being selfish. So why is self-care important? We've highlighted some reasons here to prevent mental breakdown. You know, we are pouring out to students. We can't pour out from an empty cup. We have to be filled, well taken care of before we can be able to help others. Also to prevent restlessness, to reduce stress and anxiety. It's important to prevent burnout, you know, to manage stress and reduce burnout, to increase efficiency and productivity. We need to keep showing up for students, for those who are serving our community, so we need to take care of ourselves. I'm going to pass it to Taku to take us through the challenges faced by international. Thank you.
Thank you, Abel. Hi, everyone. So I'll be taking you through the challenges faced by international graduate students. This one is really dear to me. I think most of my classmates are in here, and they know some of the challenges that I face as an international student. And there was a time that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go back home. This is too much for me. Because of the challenges they're all facing. So we're gonna talk about the specific challenges, as I've mentioned, and we're gonna talk about culture shock. A lot of international students face culture shock coming from a different environment, coming from a different place, going to a new environment. It comes with its own challenges into adapting. The way people speak, the way people relate, and the way people learn is different. So not only through graduate school, but the very fact of assimilating in a different environment through culture shock can really affect you. And the issue of language barrier in itself, like for some of us, English is not our first language. You're actually thinking as you speak. It's not so easy for us in some situations. So it's actually a challenge. Sometimes you can even express yourself. Sometimes you can even be proficient in everything that you're doing. That's another challenge that a lot of international students face in their endeavors. We also talk about social isolation and loneliness. Being in a different place, we all know, comes with a lot of stress. I can imagine for a place like Vermont, where we are, sometimes because of the weather, I can give an example of myself and some of my colleagues here. It can be really cold and really lonely. When it's cold, a lot of people don't move around. And where we are from, like international students, Africans, we are people who are just used to talking to everyone, and we are so engaging and so friendly. But Vermont, during the cold season, is really isolating and really lonely. So it's one of the challenges that international students face. And also, we also highlighted xenophobia and discrimination. This is a big one for us. A lot of microaggressions that we face, certainly that we experience, and a lot of international students face is that's affecting their emotional being, their mental health, and even academic performances as well. Institutional and social challenges. On this one, we talk about the challenges that the international students face in building meaningful relationships with faculty and advisors due to cultural and language differences. Exactly as I was saying, there are a lot of differences in how people relate. There are a lot of differences in how things are done. Like where we are from, our institutions are not like from the US, for example. There's a way that you relate to your professors. In the US, like some of the things that we noticed as we first came in here, it's so friendly. Your professors, you can talk to them. When you first came here, there was this hierarchy that we wanted to observe. So through learning all those things, it can come with its own challenges, but we managed to get through. And if you do not assimilate in a good way, it can actually affect your academic performance if you don't get support. We also spoke about gender and racial issues. As I have said, most of international students, like my example with some of my folks, where we come from, it's only like for my example, I come from Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is only predominantly black, only one religion. Coming to a US, there's a lot of there are a lot of diversity. It was something that I had to learn about, something I had to adjust, something I had to learn from other people and so from my folks. Because of our minority backgrounds, it was a contribution for stress in my life, in my academic journey. But I had to learn through it. But it's one of the social challenges that a lot of international students face. Consequences of unaddressed challenges. There is decreased productivity, reduced academic performance, impact on concentration and inefficiency. Another big one is burnout. Burnout is one that's really stressful because not only physically but mentally, you'll be dealing with a lot of things and you cannot even pin out exactly what you're dealing with. You know that there are a lot of things that are happening in you and through you, so you get a lot of burnout through not addressing it because you don't know exactly what you are dealing with. So I'm going to pass it on to Sharif to talk about developing a self-care plan.
Yeah, thank you, Teku. And yeah, I'm going to be talking about how to develop a personalized self-care plan. And thank you for running us through those challenges. Those are just some of the challenges that are being faced by international students. They are numerous, they are unlimited, but we're able to identify some of these challenges as it impacted on international students in terms of how they've been impacted in terms of academic activities, in terms of their graduate assistantship and some other areas. So I think what that is really important is how to set a realistic and achievable goals, which is very important. As an international graduate student studying in the US, having identified all of this problem, we have to focus on small and sustainable activities that will help us develop, that self-care routine, to be mentally fit and to be socially active, in whatever environment you find yourself. You have to integrate most of these activities into your daily life. Like take for instance, you want to say, okay, 10 minutes, I want to take a 10-minute walk. I want to meditate for like 5 minutes, or I want to schedule a regular break while you are engaging in most of these daily activities. You have to be specific. You have to clearly define what your self-care plan is all about, what it entails, and how you want to be regular about it. For instance, you want to take 15 minutes to practice mindfulness every afternoon instead of you saying, I will relax more. No, you have to be very decisive and specific about what is that your self-care plan. And just like I'm seeing here, I know we have a lot of professionals that are working with international students. These are what we should be expecting. We have cohorts member, graduate students that have international students as their friends and classmates. These are practices we want you to encourage them to implement in their daily activities. You have to balance academic, professional, and personal life activities. This is really important as you want to ensure that your plan include that intentional practices that incorporate that physical, mental, emotional, social, and professional well-being for you to be able to remain mentally aware, mentally active, and achieve that overall mental health and well-being. You have to customize your self-care activities to fit your personality. You know, don't just think because I am from Nigeria, Abel is from Nigeria, I have to look at what self-care plan of Abel is. No, I have to develop a self-care plan that is take care of my own personal need in terms of cultural context, you know, while exploring activities, you know, like yoga, like prayer, for instance. Abel is a Christian, and what he does is listening to some of this gospel music. I don't listen to music as a Muslim. What I do is to, you know, listen to recitation of the Quran, and I got a lot of inspiration from doing that. So I can't just because I and Abel we are from Nigeria, but we have other identities, you know, that differ from each other. So building self-care plan. We are going to be engaging in self-care map activity, you know, to be able to see what our self-care routine is, you know, in our daily activities. Even we are talking about international students, but at the same time, everyone, we are being impacted by, you know, self-care activity. We need to stay, you know, healthy, because you can pour from an empty cup. For you to be able to serve and serve adequately well in terms of supporting your student. Even as you are supporting international students, you also need, you know, this self-care to be well organized. So we are going to be doing this. Abel and Tapu are going to be passing around this activity for us. Yeah, one. These are 15 minutes activity. So that is the instruction. The self-care map will be given as well.
Hey, one day you'll figure it out.
So, first and foremost, we are going to be doing that individually. The objective is to encourage participants to create self-care map that clearly identifies current practices, areas needing improvement, and new strategies you are interested in adopting. The goal of this activity is to connect personal self-care to professional growth while fostering a supportive environment for sharing. Okay, so that's the instruction. So the first step is self-care creation. That is 5 minutes individually. Write down current practices you engage in each of those categories, and highlight any challenges or areas you'd like to improve on. That is individual task. Oh, okay, sure. Thank you. one more minute. Yeah, sure. So the second activity is to pair up, find the other person close to you, and have a conversation, about the major, share one or two insights from your self-care map, highlighting practices you find helpful or challenges you are currently facing while implementing your self-care plan.
Emotional self-care. I really like business cards, Spotify playlist. And then I've gotten really excited.
I love
going to talk. I don't do any work. Also, secure my emotions.
And then, I also like, and then I like will talk to other people in the class to kind of gauge what they're doing, and that kind of keeps me
Thank you. Okay. One more minute.
Okay, I'll do this for you really quickly. At least one or two I try to follow her strands. And then after my direction, so I will go
Yeah. And then I like have a friend that we do like two once or she came twice like during Labor Day. I went down during Independence Day in October. She came up last week for my birthday. And then like I'm gonna go there in December. And then we're gonna go to New York City to see so yeah. And it's like it's easy opportunity. It's like I can work leave work and get there. So it's like we still have time to do something that way. And then like on Sunday, we got to be there Friday, Saturday, and it's
Thank you. Yeah, the next activity is to tell us in group what your self-care practice or what helpful suggestion you learned from your peer. Identify any common challenges that come up during the conversation. So let us have a thought around this point. Who wants to know? What are the challenges you identified in the course of your conversation with your peer? And what are the helpful suggestions you learned from your partner while having that conversation? Okay, got it.
Yeah. Steve shared that after 9 p.m. it's like no homework time, and I think that that boundary is really important, especially when we're students, because I think it's easy to get into this like, oh, you have to finish this assignment, and then it will be 1 o'clock in the morning, and you're super tired. So having that boundary, I think, is a really important thing that we talk about.
Yeah, I think setting up boundaries is really, really important. And with international students, I don't even think I have any boundary, because coming from Africa, every time we want to help one another, we want to support one another. I got to the US to discover that setting up boundaries is really, really a big thing, because it's a very good way to get burnout and fatigue. And once that happens, you are not even going to be able to do any classwork, any assignment, or even attend to any particular, for instance, in my own case, RAs. So how am I going to be able to support them? How am I going to be able to support my residents? So that is really, really important. So, other thoughts? Okay, thank you.
I realize that I really need to listen to more music because I'm realizing just how much it was a therapy to me at one point, and I've kind of like gone away from it. So that's what I realized. So thanks for that, bringing it back to music.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Some people, music is highly medicinal, and someone like Abel play guitar, piano, and a host of other things. So he has in his apartment, it's like a studio. So I think, yeah, of course. So I think that's where he gets inspiration. So for me, I'm able to develop a plan about listening to the Korean, and once I'm listening to the Korean, it's these kind of energy vibes that I got from it. I think it's really important that one kind of discover what area works for you. For some people, it's about eating good food, highly medicinal. For Taco, he likes food. So do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, Sarah and I, for like on that kind of transcends both emotional and physical self-care, like going on walks and like being in nature, because that allows you that time to like, get fresh air, because we're working in some cases like 9 to 5, and then you have class from 7 to 9. And like I have a day where I do that, and I'm like in a building for 12 hours of the day. So like going outside and just like taking a walk and getting fresh air and like in a different setting, being alone, allowing you to like clear your mind of like the work. So those kinds of things.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you totally, because when you're talking about you doing some certain works and just taking some moments to excuse yourself and take a walk, it's like probably when you are driving your car, and at the point in time you just kind of switch off the car, to be able to cool off, so for you to be able to recalibrate and recharge your energy, and that is really important. Thank you for sharing that. Any other thoughts coming in? Okay, if there is none, for now, the last one would be for you to jot down 1 or 2 new self-care practices you'd like to incorporate into your routine, along with a specific step to start with. As we are doing that, I'm going to turn it over to Taku to take us through how to build resilience and managing stress. Thank you for participating in this activity.
Yeah. If we are done with the activity, I'm going to be taking you through building resilience and managing stress. I was previously mentioning about the challenges, so we don't like to only talk about the challenges, we also want to talk about the solutions. And resilience is one of the coping mechanisms that we work through our research, and I'll be sharing more about it so that as professionals, we can actually use this in our day-to-day, and even when we are helping our students. So what is resilience? Resilience is the ability to adapt and bounce back from setback, challenges, and adversities. It's not just about toughing it out, but learning and going through difficult situations. I think that's a pretty self-explanatory definition. And what are some of the resilience building techniques? The first one that was big for us as we're creating this is the mindset shift. I like to give practical examples, like my experience and some of the international students that I have interacted with. It takes to shift your mind when you're in a different environment. When you don't embrace challenges, you only continue to suffer with the same thing that you're suffering from. So you have to shift your mind and to know that you're in a different environment. And a different environment comes with different challenges, and different challenges require a different mindset. So mindset shift is another one of the biggest resilient building techniques, and also to cultivate optimism. Optimism is actually a really big technique, because you start seeing the goodness in every situation. Not everything is bad. Being in a place where your mental health is not so good, you actually see benefits from it, because you are learning and you are coming out of the comfort zone. So thinking positive and being optimistic is actually another one big resilience building technique. We also came up with establishing a support network. Surrounding yourself with supportive friends, mentors, peers can offer guidance and encourage during tough times. And also self-compassion. As the first professionals, we know you can be trained. You're working with students, you're working with staff, and you're working on your schoolwork, private school. You need some people that you can hang out with. You need some people that you can confide with. You need some people that you can talk to through all of the stressful situation that you'll be going through. So establishing a supportive network is one of the biggest resilience techniques. And also self-compassion, as I have said, treating yourself with kindness. As Sherif was just mentioning, that Abel likes music and he likes listening to the Korean. I myself like to work out. I don't look like I work out, but I work out a lot. I go to the gym, I run, and I lift a lot of weights. It has helped me a lot. So it's also important for us to create these routines and to find out something that's really good to us, to treat ourselves, whether it is food, music, and there's working out, and there's steps, walking a lot of steps, and doing whatever you can for yourself to be compassionate with yourself. Mindfulness. Mindfulness is just being present in the moment. I always like to give an example of mindfulness, that you have to take a step back and see the situation that you are dealing with. I'm in a new environment. My mental health is like this. What's going on? What's causing this? And how can I solve this? Being in a place where you just take a step back and be mindful of the situations goes a long way into having a positive mental health and managing your stress. And meditation as well. I like to meditate, to think about everything. When you meditate, you actually see things as they are, not as what you might feel. Because sometimes your mind can direct you that no, you're feeling this way, but it's because of this. So daily meditation is actually one of the best management strategies, stress management strategies. Prioritizing tasks. When you prioritize your task, you're organized. You know that at this time you're going to be doing this, at this time you're going to be doing this, at this time you're going to be doing this. That's one big stress management strategies, because you don't have a lot of confusion, you don't have a lot of overwhelming that will happen to you, because you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing at any given time. We also highlight the Pomodoro technique, which is working in focused intervals, just like prioritizing your works. It can fall out of that as well. It's like you know exactly what you'll be doing. 25 minutes of this, 25 minutes of this. It reduces your stress and it makes you manage everything that you should be going for into a certain situation and point. I mentioned exercise, stretching, and walking. These are the big ones for me personally, because I like to do physical activities. They really help you a lot, and implementing them can really take off a lot of stress from yourself. Sleep hygiene and eating healthy. These ones are big ones as well. As you sleep well, as you have good sleep hygiene and eat well, it goes a long way. Especially with nutrition hygiene. Where we come from, the food is so different. And when I came to the US, I later discovered that the food in the US, you have to be really, really mindful. You have to be really, really careful with what you eat, because it can damage your mental health when you start gaining weight and you start not feeling good about yourself. So eating well is another big one as well. So I'm going to pass it on to Abel to talk about self-care culture in the workplace.
Thank you so much, Jaco. So we're looking at empowering international graduate students on self-care practices. This talks to supervisors, faculty. How can you help them foster self-care in the culture in a workplace? So the first is creating that supportive environment where you are actively promoting the resources available. In UVM, for instance, we have a lot of resources, but people don't utilize them. So you need to promote it actively as a supervisor of faculty, and also leading by example. You know, there was a class we had where we were talking about self-care being just a buzzword, and self-care, but you as a faculty, you are overloading your students. You are not creating that space for them actively. So we need to create it and lead by example in the way we do our work. Also fostering work-life balance. There should be a line, as someone pointed out the other time, like 9 p.m. I'm out of work. Like, although it could be difficult, especially when you're working in residential line and you're getting some emails or some calls, or you're on duty and those things. So it may be difficult, but we still need to strike that balance and be like, today I'm out of the office and things like that, so that we can take care of ourselves. Another one is creating that supportive environment. Your team should be supportive. Having people in your team that are not supportive can be very detrimental. And finally, offering resources and tools for well-being. As a faculty or supervisor, you've read a book that was helpful. You can offer it out to international students or to your students around, so that they can also go through it and learn one or two things. And also encouraging break and downtime. Being able to give grace is one serious one that we feel like as faculty. Sometimes meeting deadline can be difficult for international students or students generally. Also being able to be flexible, giving grace that okay, you can still turn it at this time, and making them still feel relaxed, not unnecessarily under pressure. Another strategy is promoting team building and social connection. One of the things I was sharing with my partner when we were talking about the self-care was the fact that I'm terrible at just locking in. I can be indoors all day sometimes, and it's really not so good. So let's encourage them to go out. Like one of the things I want to try is go hiking. I really want to see that, and maybe snow diving or something.
You have to take care.
So,
Be careful.
when the snow starts, so I'm looking out for that. And finally, is providing that training on self-care. We hardly have training on self. I can't remember if we've had one, but we need to incorporate this training into the programs that we have for international students and our students generally. Teach them techniques, teach them things, emphasize it that they need to take care of themselves because they'll be able to help more and be efficient at their work. Thank you. I'll pass it to Sherry.
So, thank you. We are getting closer to the end of the presentation. Thank you, Abel, for running us through that very important piece. And first and foremost, when we were about making that the title of this presentation, first we were talking about looking at beyond lip service, because self-care is often, we pay lip service, especially in student affairs, about okay, self-care is pretty much thrown around, but do we actually walk the talk? No, that is not something that is happening. So we are going to be assessing ourselves based on the self-care map activity that we just did, looking at what stage we are in our physical self-care, emotional self-care, mental self-care, and social self-care and professional self-care. So we are going to be looking at this question: do you prioritize exercise? How often do you do exercise? How often do you sleep? What is the nature of your sleep routine? And what is your nutrition, daily nutritional plan? Do you take time for your emotional well-being? Like managing stress or seeking emotional support when the need arises? Are you actively engaging in practices that stimulate your mind and creativity, such as reading, engaging in that hobbies that you like? Do you maintain meaningful social connections and engage in community activities? Shout out to our folks at Rest Life Riley and Sierra. Oftentimes we just ask you who wants to go for lunch. The lunch is a time I want to use for my assignment, writing my reflection. But I think it is part and parcel of the American community. They're like, no, this time is I have to go for lunch. I have to do this. No, we don't have that from Africa. Please try and encourage African international graduate students, from Africa and everywhere around the world, especially to look at how they can incorporate most of these things into their plan. And again, I want to kind of quickly mention that we should try and even though we have these conceptualization of international students as a unified group of people, we are quite different. I'm not white, I'm from Africa, sub-Saharan Africa to be precise. You can compare me with someone who is coming from Canada, just Montreal, 1 hour 30 minutes away, that eats like similar food that you take here. I'm not like that. So I think we have to incorporate that kind of mentality to be able to help meet the needs of international students, especially from different places that they come from as a professional. So based on this assessment, we want you to check at least 2 areas where you feel improvement is needed. Do you want to say in my physical, mental self-care, I need to prioritize more regular exercise? Do you need, on your emotional piece, do you need development of better stress management techniques? On social piece, do you want to make more time for social activities outside of your studies, outside of your GA? All of these activities are what we want you to reflect on. And as you are, we are closing with this very particular presentation. So, and in conclusion, we want to say that self-care is a critical practice for sustaining well-being. If you want to be productive, if you want to be efficient, if you want to be successful, international graduate students, and even student affairs professionals need self-care, and we have to be intentional about this. And by building a personalized self-care plan, developing a great, resilience and coping mechanisms, and by fostering supportive environment in our workplaces, as individuals and institutions, we can promote healthier, more productive community where both our personal and professional growth can flourish and thrive. Thank you so much for being part and parcel of this presentation. We want to welcome any particular question that we may have, before we call this. These are our contact information. So, any question for us at all? Based on this presentation, or any question that is, just okay.
So out of all of those different, mental, physical, etc., you as an international student, what is the most difficult for you to kind of nourish as an international student in the United States?
Yeah, I think okay.
I can take this one.
Yeah, you wanted to go back to Zimbabwe.
I wanted to go back to Zimbabwe.
You was highly impacted.
Yeah, I think for me, it will be mental mostly. Because you were saying, for my example, I'm in my 30s, I'm 31, right? I've lived my life in a certain way for greater part of my life. And I come to a different environment. I'm in a different environment now where I'm expected to react in a certain way, I'm expected to be in a certain way. You might know that, but because this is not how you've been, it's not reflex for you, it's not easy for you. So adjusting to that was so different. I can give an example. Like where we are from, as I've mentioned, we are so friendly. We are, hi, how's it going? We can just talk here. But Vermont on its own, it's more individualistic. You don't just walk up to people. So you might know that, but because this is who you are, sometimes it can be difficult to switch to be like, oh, this good. So in a way, it gets you in a really uncomfortable position because you're always conscious sometimes. Like, am I doing this well? Am I doing this right? So mostly, if I didn't say for me, it was mostly mental because you are conscious every day about what you say, how you react, your energy that you're putting out, which is also that you're part of. I would say for me it's mental.
Yeah, okay. For me, basically, it has to be social, because why it's so hard for me is because we are three. They are single. I'm married. I have my kids, my 3 daughters back in Nigeria, my wife in Nigeria. So, and I think we are now 6 hours ahead of, Nigeria is 6 hours ahead of the US. So it's pretty difficult to actually, talk to my family. So, and by the time I want to do that, they are sleeping. So, which means as early as probably 4 a.m. in the morning, I have to kind of wake up and call them. So it's really, really difficult. But I mean, again, I think I have to give a shout out to our court member. They've been so wonderful in terms of being supportive, and at the same time, presidential life. Guys are here being supportive, right? Thank you so much for all you do. Really appreciate that.
Even like I'm also an international student, I think one perspective I want to share. I'm from India.
Okay.
So what I've seen, so I went to University of Tennessee in Oxford for grad school, and now my grad school is Syracuse University. So these are very 2 different regions in the US. Tennessee is very hospitable. As you were mentioning, people hug there all the time. Physical affection is very much part of the social life. In New York, they don't do that at all. So how do you navigate those boundaries? And what I've seen, maybe your experience is the same. I don't see much curiosity among Americans towards international students' cultures. It's like I'm always the one trying to teach them about my culture. They won't ask me anything. I'm always the one trying to learn about their culture. They won't show any curiosity. They won't make an initiative. I don't know why it is it that. Even now I haven't understood. It's really hard. You can say to bring them to the space that where they feel comfortable. Making the initiative to learn about it.
Thank you for sharing. Okay.
So I work in the international office at Southern New Hampshire University. We have probably over 600 international students representing over 60 countries, so quite a diversity of students. Even students who are from Nigeria, depending on where they're from, as far as more of a village area versus the main capital and everything. I do a lot of the cultural programming, the orientations. I'm always trying to figure out ways to connect with my students, to support them even more in that transition to life in New Hampshire, because it can be very different. I mean, you talked about it, the food, you talked about the languages, you talked about the lovely environment, i.e. snow, right? And the cold, and just all of those different elements, the culture shock and everything. I mean, we do talk at orientation about culture shock. Like, one of the things you were talking about was what it is to be somebody who is of African descent, Nigerian descent, Zimbabwean, Indian, in the US, when that wasn't something as part of the identity previously, because when you're part of the majority, it's a very different experience than when you're somewhere else and it's a primarily white institution, presumably Vermont. SNU is very much so. What can we do as, you know, affairs personnel, orientation personnel to support our students in their transition better to our communities?
Yeah, I think this is really great, because we've been able to talk about most of these things in our presentation. For me, I think as faculty, as staff, we should be intentional about supporting international students. You know, in terms of we're talking about, okay, looking at what are the probably for African students, what are the African stores where international students from Africa can get, you know, their food, because it was pretty difficult for me. For like, I think 3-4 months, I was eating my African meals that I brought from Nigeria. But immediately that finished, then there was a problem. Abel had adjusted so quick eating American food. I can just eat it. So by the time I consume my food, it got done on me that, oh boy, you have to start taking this food, right? So that was when I started. So it got to a long time before I could discover that, okay, there are some stores around that I can actually get. We can support international students by talking about mental health resources that are available. And before they even get to develop that mental health issues, how do we begin building that foundation in terms of providing that support? Because just like we mentioned in that piece, it is not a quick fix thing. You know, how do we start from the onset developing international students to support them with the needed resources? Because we know they are going to face that problems. It is very normal that they are going to face this culture shock, you know, a lot of things like that. So how do we start from the beginning, you know, in terms of, you know, giving them or exposing them to most of these resources are really important. You want to share? Okay.
I have something to add to that. So I think there's another thing, like how international students experience social identities is very different way like Americans do. For example, being queer, I find it really hard to be in like domestic queer spaces. If I mean, like if there's like a, for example, grad affinity group for queer people, you know, and if everybody there is like all American students, I won't be able to talk much in there because they won't be able to relate to my experience. I won't be able to relate to their experience. So I think when it comes to affinity spaces, they have to be very intentional. I think international students should have like a separate affinity space, you know, when it comes to certain identities.
I agree. Okay.
I'll just add, you know, I'm the library director at my university, University of Bridgeport. My daughter's a junior, she's, you know, domestic student, and I've made a point with her that you have to use, you have, to this point, be curious. Have some curiosity about other cultures, and you know, it's not enough for you to be in your little bubble.
Yeah.
You know, as an American, African American, you know, you have to get to know. You know, this, and you're on this campus that's very highly a university of color, you know, international. You know, it's an opportunity for you to learn, you know, about other cultures. And never, you know, take that for granted. And you know, and then she has. And through, I think with all of us, the more we're exposed to other cultures, you know, languages, and listening. You know, it's not enough to not care or, you know, show empathy, but you have to actively,
Yeah.
you have to do more,
Yeah.
you know, and so I've kind of like shamed her and said, look, you know, you have privilege. It's not white privilege, you know, but you have privilege and obligation, you know, to use your privilege to advocate, you know, for international students. And the point of departure was, how would you feel if you lived 6 hours away? So start from a place of, you know, empathy and respect, you know, for the bravery of students to come this far. You know, I'm of Nigerian descent by way of the Middle Passage. Okay, so my ancestors have been here, you know, I can show you my ancestry DNA. You know, but you have an obligation to, you know, make sure that, how would you feel? You know, it's like the golden rule, treat people the way you would like to be treated, you know. So I do, you know, I have a lot of, you know, graduate assistants who work in the library and stuff like that. And, you know, they've come a long way. You know, I have one student who showed up in New York City, you know, from Uganda on New Year's Day, if you can imagine, you know. And then to try to, and then have to get from New York City to Bridgeport, Connecticut. You show up at the dorm, and they're telling you you have to wait until the next morning. You know, it's just, so I also challenge my colleagues as well, you know, that they have to be, it can't just be, that's not my job. You know, because there's always a unique, challenging opportunity. If the students are not here, I'm not here.
Right.
I'm not working in the library. You know, if we don't, you know, look out for our students in that way. So that's kind of like my, I just tell you as, you know, as a parent, as an administrator at a university, whatever we can do to learn, you know, it's not, you know, we do need to be curious and, you know, get to know people and how we can be a resource as well, you know, to students. So,
Thank you so much.
all right.
Just,
Thanks
we've
for
come to
doing
the end
this.
of the presentation because this is already 4:16. Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you. Steve. Woo.
See you at the reception?
Yeah.
All right.
I know like an hour.
Yeah.
An hour.
I'm
Other languages and everything.
I can't do it.
Respect everyone.
I'm gonna do my
Thank you for coming.
gonna show you.
Yeah.
We are trying to do more international.
Oh, do you have like a card or?
You can have a LinkedIn.
Most of my international students are studying like
Or
like business analytics and IT, and it's just nice to have the international students that actually I
actually want to do an event in the living and learning. I want to do some something with
I was working
African
with
culture, maybe food or music or something?
We actually, at our university,
Yeah,
I just started it last year, have this program called Cooking and Conversation. And what it is it's led by our international students, international faculty
Thanks for
members,
that.
and we cook something. So we cook from scratch. But it's like, so we've done curry, we've done like hot pots, we did, one of my colleagues who is the director of community standards is from Haiti, and so we were doing Haitian food, we've done jollof rice. But it's like, and it brings in our international students, and we all come together and we cook new dishes, and we talk, and we build community through a common activity. And it's like, it's gone amazingly well.